Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about towing a trailer. Now even though a lot of the fundamentals to driving a car without a trailer apply when you are towing a trailer, there are some key differences and things you need to keep in mind when towing a trailer. First off, you're much heavier. You're carrying a lot more weight behind your vehicle, and that means it takes longer to accelerate and to come to a stop. It's just physics. You have a lot more weight to move and are asking your tow vehicle's engine and brakes to handle all of that. Now, trailer brakes do help a lot, but when you're towing a vehicle, you still need to give yourself more time and space to stop. You don't want to rear end another car because you didn't allow yourself enough time to slow down and come to a stop. So don't think that just because your trailer has brakes, you don't need to give yourself extra room when stopping, because you will definitely need the extra space. You also never know when someone may cut you off or jump in your cushion zone. So giving yourself as much space between you and the vehicle in front of you is key. Plus, if you step on the brakes suddenly, you're putting more stress on your tow vehicle and you risk cargo getting damaged or coming loose from that sudden stop. This is often unavoidable in an emergency situation, but should be avoided during normal driving when possible. So slow and easy is the name of the game. Don't be in a hurry, don't rush. So just accept that you're towing a trailer and it's going to take you some extra time to slow, stop, accelerate, and get to your destination. Towing a vehicle is not a race. It's about slow and steady, getting the cargo from point A to point B as safely as possible. A general rule of thumb is to leave at least one vehicle length of your vehicle, including the trailer, for every 10 miles an hour of speed you are traveling when stopping. So for example, if I'm driving 30 miles an hour, I need at least 3 vehicle lengths of space to stop. And if my truck and trailer is 40 foot long, I need at least 120 feet of room to stop. When accelerating, it will take longer too, because you are heavier and you have more mass to move around. So you'll need to account for that when driving. The best way to minimize stress on your tow vehicle and the safest way to accelerate is to slowly apply the accelerator and gradually start your forward motion. Then, once you start moving, you can slowly roll into the throttle and pick up a little bit more speed and reach your ideal speed. It's much better to accelerate this way in a slow and controlled manner because it allows you to be more in control, have a higher reaction time, and it puts less stress on your tow vehicle compared to if you were just to mash the throttle and send it. When driving a vehicle without a trailer, you can punch the gas to make a merge, get out of someone's way, or make a yellow light. That is not the case when you're towing a trailer. You can't drive offensive like that. That aggressive style just doesn't work. You need to drive defensively, keeping as much space around you as possible, looking around you and observing when someone might jump in front of you, slam on their brakes, or merge into you. Because people know large trucks and trailers typically drive slower, so they see it as a good opportunity to jump in front of you. So look out for that, don't get road rage, and just let them have the spot and get out of your way. It's not worth crashing or damaging your tow vehicle and trailer. Next is turning. With a trailer, you're a lot longer, sometimes 20 or 30 feet longer, and that means you need to swing wider when turning. Just because your tow vehicle makes the turn doesn't mean your trailer will too. So keep that in mind. You'll need to swing wider when making turns to make sure you don't hit your trailer on anything or run over a curb, hit a barrier, etc. Nothing is worse than scraping the side of your trailer because you didn't swing wide enough during the turn. So don't be afraid to go slow and take your time. The biggest mistake that I see is that drivers start their turn too soon. They just want to start their turn right away, and that's when you crash into things. I recommend driving into the intersection as far as you can before turning. This gives you much more room and reduces the chances of hitting your trailer. You're also much less likely to cut into the oncoming traffic lane when making a turn. That is the one thing to always watch for when making your turns. It's very important to watch both sides. You need to make sure you're in the center of the lane and not going to hit oncoming traffic or the curb on the side of the road. And what I have found that works for me is I like to make the sharpest part of my turn at the end of the turn. So, like I said before, when you're making a left turn, for example, roll forward straight into the intersection, 5, 10, 20 feet or so, and then start to make your turn. Also, think ahead. Think 2 turns ahead. Should you be in the inner turn lane or the outer turn lane? For example, if you're making a right turn and then another right turn, it makes sense to be in the right turn lane so you're ready to make your next turn and don't have to make a quick lane change. Now, sometimes there is only one turn lane and you don't really have much choice, but if you have the option and can think about it ahead of time, That'll just make it a whole lot easier. Oftentimes you'll see large semi-trucks making right turns from the second turn lane, and when they make their turn, they cross into the first turn lane. This is totally fine, and you can do the same thing too. They just need that extra space to make the turn. But just make sure that no little cars try to sneak by and get themselves pinched. And you will find that big semis have signs that say makes wide turns, do not use inside lane, just to warn cars that they need 2 lanes to make the turn. Now, another thing when it comes to turning is speed. Like I mentioned earlier, you are much heavier, so if you turn too fast, you may be at risk of tipping. Even though your vehicle can handle those turns at those speeds without a trailer, your tow vehicle handles very differently with a trailer behind it. So make sure to go slow and take your time. Now, talking about changing lanes, you'll need a lot more room when you do change lanes because you're longer. This can be hard to judge when you're first starting out. Most of the time, if you use your turn signals and be patient, other drivers will make a hole for you if they're nice, but you also want to make the lane changes slow. The slower you merge over, the more time you and other drivers have to react. One tip I like is to use your shadow. Depending on where the sun is, sometimes your shadow falls into the lane that you want to merge into, and you can use that to give you a good idea of how much room you need and how much space you need. Typically, when driving around town, if you are towing a trailer, you should be in the slow lane, far right lane for us here in the USA. This just lets faster vehicles pass and helps prevent traffic. And going back to what I mentioned earlier about thinking ahead, I like to be in the lane closest to the next turn that I'm going to be making. For example, if I have an upcoming left turn in less than a mile, I like to be prepared by being in the left lane. That way I don't have to worry about quickly changing lanes last minute to make my turn. And if the road has 3 lanes and I am driving straight for a while, 2 or 3 miles or more, I like to stay in the middle lane. And the reason I like to do this is because people in the left and right lanes will typically be turning soon and will slow down to make their turn. Since I want to go straight for a while, I'll stay in the middle and I won't have to worry about cars slowing down in front of me, and I won't have to brake and accelerate as much. But when it comes to driving on freeways, the rules are a little bit different. The laws in most states say that if you are towing a trailer, you need to be in one of the far right lanes. Again, this is to keep slower vehicles to the side and allow faster vehicles to pass in the left lanes and prevent traffic. Now, you are allowed to use the 3rd lane, but only as a passing lane to pass slower vehicles. But once you've made your pass, you need to get back into one of the 2 slow lanes. Typically, when you're towing a trailer, the speed limits are a little bit slower, especially on freeways. Most freeways, at least in California, have a speed limit of 55 miles an hour for vehicles towing a trailer. And obviously, this varies from state to state, county to county, and there's exceptions like road construction, etc. But just pay attention to the speed limits marked on the roads and you should be fine. Now, this topic I will be going over in more detail in later videos, but I just wanted to mention a couple things to do in case of an emergency situation when towing a trailer. First thing I want to address is when your trailer starts to fishtail. And by fishtail, I mean the trailer starts to wiggle back and forth. Sometimes slightly, sometimes more violently. Sometimes you may not even notice it at all, and sometimes you may feel it very drastically. But no matter if your trailer is fishtailing slightly or aggressively, this can be very dangerous. The first thing you want to do in this situation is let off the accelerator and begin to slow down. The reason you do this is because fishtailing is usually caused by speed going too fast. Now, you may think, that's easy, I'll just slam on the brakes, but that is not what you want to do either. And the reason being is that most of your stopping power comes from the brakes on the tow vehicle, and the trailer brakes assist. So when you do decelerate, a lot of that weight is being pushed forward onto your tow vehicle. And when you push that weight forward, when you're fishtailing, you're often not lined up, and this can cause you to jackknife, roll, and crash, which you don't want to happen. So what you want to do instead is slightly apply the trailer brakes only. Just reach down and hit the trailer brakes. Your trailer brake controller should be located just below the steering wheel and have a lever that you can slide to activate the trailer brakes. The reason that you do this is because when you activate the trailer brakes, it puts resistance on the wheels on the trailer, which slows the trailer and it makes the trailer straighten out and more or less acts like an anchor to slow the tow vehicle. It's much easier and safer to stop a vehicle with drag rather than resistance from the front of the vehicle, if that makes sense. But if you ever experience fishtailing when towing, it's very important to remain calm, not jam on the brakes too aggressively, even the trailer brakes. When you apply the trailer brakes, you should apply them very slowly until the vehicle and trailer stabilize and straighten out. Once you have regained control of your vehicle, you should pull over to a safe spot and reevaluate the weight distribution of your trailer, because that is the reason why your trailer is fishtailing, because there is either too much or not enough tongue weight, and the trailer is not balanced. And when you tow an unbalanced trailer at certain speeds, the trailer begins to fishtail and become unstable. The next thing I want to cover is a flat tire. Sometimes you might not even notice that you have a flat tire on your trailer. Sometimes you won't feel it in the tow vehicle like you would if you lost it on the tow vehicle itself. So that's why it's important to make a habit of glancing back at your trailer tires in the mirror every so often. Now, if you're towing a trailer that only has one tire on each side, a single axle, you'll know it right away if you have a flat tire because you'll feel significant drag or probably hear it. But if you have a larger trailer with a dual or tri-axle, it might not be as noticeable because if you lose one tire, the other tires will pick up the load. Which is a good thing that they're able to do that, but they can only support that additional weight by themselves for so long before those tires fail too. So if you notice that you have lost a tire on your trailer, you should definitely pull over to the side of the road as quickly and safely as possible and change it. I've experienced many flat tires while towing trailers in my day, and typically it's not a big deal. You just pull over to the side of the road and install the spare. For the most part, I typically knew I had a flat tire right away. I either heard it, felt it, or even smelt it. But sometimes I wasn't even aware until I looked back and saw that the tire was missing, or someone drove up next to me and signaled to me that I had a flat tire, something was wrong. So it's important to keep that in mind and check your mirrors as much as possible. And you always want to change the tire as soon as you can and not drive around missing a tire unless it's absolutely necessary. Because first of all, it's illegal. Second, it's unsafe. And thirdly, you have a higher risk of losing the other tires and having the trailer fall onto the road and causing a crash. But those are the two biggest things that I would watch out for when towing a trailer. Lastly, keep an eye on your gauges, your engine temperature gauge, oil pressure gauge, transmission temperature gauge, etc. Now, not all tow vehicles have all these gauges, but you want to keep an eye on them and make sure that you're not overheating your tow vehicle. Towing puts more stress on your vehicle and you want to make sure that you don't have any problems. But that's it for towing, guys. Typically, as long as you go slow and take your time and account for your size, you'll be fine. And as always, let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one.